Hi there, this is Dr. Paul Firnhaber here at Lincoln Disc and Nutrition Center, and today it's time for another 10 minutes of truth. Today I want to talk about a subject that I talked about several weeks ago, but I want to bring it up again because there's just more and more information that's coming out about it. And that's the subject of bioaccumulation of microplastics in the human body. And we're just finding out more and more about the amount of plastic that we consume on a weekly basis. Now, what I've heard this from credible sources, is that if you look at all the plastic that we get every week, we consume about a credit card's worth of plastic per week. Now, to me, that's pretty shocking. And so, I want to talk about that a little bit today and then give you maybe a few ideas how you can cut down on that if possible. So this first article is from a journal that the entire journal is devoted to nanoparticles and nanoplastics. And the name of this journal is called Nano Impact. This is from October 2023. It's about a little less than a year ago. And it says, I'm just going to quote from the article, from the abstract at least. Recently, researchers found that micro and nanoplastics and fibers produced by the degradation and fragmentation of plastic waste in the environment have become an important emerging environmental and food chain contaminant with uncertain consequences for human health. The majority of micro nanoplastics in the environment to which humans are most likely to be exposed are of irregular shape, varied sizes, and mixed compositions, and are defined as secondary micro nanoplastics. For human exposure, micro nanoplastics have been identified in human blood, urine, feces, and placenta, which pose potential health risks. The evidence to date suggests that the mechanisms underlying micro nanoplastic toxicity at the cellular level are primarily driven by oxidative stress. Now, I would certainly agree with that. I'm not going to disagree with that at all, but we also know for a fact that plasticizers act as hormone disruptors, and they act more like estrogen. So there's that component as well as oxidative stress. And to be quite honest, there's probably components of how they're affecting the cell on a very deleterious level that we don't even know about, that we haven't discovered yet. The article goes on to say large knowledge gaps in our understanding of micro nanoplastic particles and the potential health impacts of their exposure still exist, and much further study is needed to bridge those gaps. This includes human population exposure studies to determine the environmentally relevant micro nanoplastic polymers and exposure concentrations and durations for toxicity studies, as well as toxicity studies employing environmentally relevant micro nanoplastic particles. Now, the other article that I want to go over is this is a preprint, and what that means, it has not been peer-reviewed yet by a journal, but it's been released for publication or released for our reading. It just hasn't been, it's not a peer-reviewed article yet, okay? But this is also very interesting. It said they compared micro nanoplastic accumulation in kidneys, livers, and brains. And these were in autopsy samples from 2016 and 2024. So they looked at that 8-year gap, and they said autopsy samples from the Office of the Medical Investigator in Albuquerque, New Mexico, collected in 2016 and 2024, were analyzed. Brains exhibited higher concentrations of these micro nanoplastic particles than liver or kidney samples. Results demonstrate that micro nanoplastics are selectively accumulated into the human brain, and concentrations are rising over time. So they found that, like, from 2016 to 2024, there's a pretty significant increase. They looked at the autopsies. So what's happening is, as a human species, we're accumulating these things on an ever-increasing level. So what can we do to mitigate this? And that's a really hard question, because everywhere we turn, our food is encased in plastic. I mean, all the food we buy. Most of the bottled drinks that people drink are in plastic. So I would say this: number one is, don't drink out of plastic bottles. Don't buy them in the store. Don't bring them home. I can understand why you maybe want to store some water in case there's a disruption due to a storm or something else, but don't make it a habit of drinking out of plastic bottles. I try not to do that. I rarely ever drink out of plastic bottles, rarely. I use glass at home. We use stainless steel and glass primarily, and porcelain mugs to drink out of at home. I don't buy plastic container water bottles at like convenience stores ever. Those crinkly plastic bottles tend to shed a lot of nanoplastics. And the article that I covered several weeks ago that said, when you drink out of a plastic water bottle like that, you're getting about 100,000 micro nanoplastic particles in your body. And this article here says that they bioaccumulate in the brain primarily. So what is that doing to people's brains? What is that doing to the way they think? Is that increasing the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's? Those are great questions, and I don't know that we have all the answers to those at this point. But if you can decrease the amount of plastic that you're consuming, the amount of drinks and whatever that you're consuming in your diet, if you can just decrease that or eliminate that as much as possible, we can eliminate the amount of plastics that we're consuming. So I hope this helps you. These articles are really disturbing. It's not good news, and I wish I had better news for you. So I would say this: be cautious, be careful, quit drinking out of plastic containers as much as possible. And I will have another 10 Minutes of Truth in 2 weeks. Next week I'll be on vacation. So God bless you. I hope you have a safe and good 2 weeks, healthy 2 weeks. And I'll see you 2 Wednesdays from now. I'll see you then.